What time is it?
Tea time!
Oh, yeah.
And welcome back to Tea Time, episode 21. We have a very college football heavy episode just due to all the stuff that's been going on. The college football playoff committee finally came up with their final four, the coaching carousel, what happened at Tennessee football, and of course what's going on right now with our very own Oregon Ducks and all that drama for everybody. But let's start with the college football playoff. 4 teams finally in. Last week, their 4 teams were Auburn, Clemson, Wisconsin, and Oklahoma. Those 4 teams win. Those 4 teams are in. And unfortunately for the committee, only 3 of those teams won. And the one that everyone thought would lose, Wisconsin, loses to Ohio State, which then gave up the big question is, does a 2-loss team finally get in? And we got our answer. The answer is no. Alabama got in. 1-loss Alabama got in over 2-loss Ohio State, 2-loss USC, an undefeated UCF, albeit they finished final in the rankings, I believe, 10th. And what this committee has now officially done is kind of set a precedent that could affect things. It could set into motion a way to try and make things better. But all comes down to, what is the committee trying to do? Are you trying to put the 4 best teams in all football, or are you trying to put the 4 most deserving teams? And should there be a happy medium between the two, or should it be one or the other? Should it be cutthroat? Should it be nice and dry? Like I said, Wisconsin wins. We don't even have a debate today. It's very easy top 4 teams. But Wisconsin lost, and that made it a debate. And ultimately what they said it came down to is Ohio State lost by 31 points to Iowa, and you can't overcome that. Now, you could go over resumes, you can go over everything. Yes, Alabama only came up with 1 loss, and it was to Auburn. But at the same time, they only have 3 ranked wins. Only 2 are still ranked. Florida State played them at the beginning of the year. Their quarterback gets hurt. We all know how that goes, and that's not Alabama's fault. They did schedule a very tough game to start the year. But it comes down to a lot of things. I mean, Ohio State did play an extra game. USC did play an extra game. UCF would have played an extra game. Unfortunately, because of the Hurricanes at the beginning of the year, they couldn't make up every game they lost. But UCF really didn't have a shot, even though UCF does have 4 ranked wins, albeit all of them are 20 or greater. None of them are in the top 19. And one of them was twice. So am I upset Alabama got in? No. Did I think Alabama should have got in? No. But if you were to ask me who I thought the absolute 4 best teams were, I'd actually probably say Alabama. As much as I don't like to say it, and I don't want to say it, but it's true. It's Alabama. Alabama's one of the top 4 best teams in the country. But did they deserve to go? Hell no. They didn't deserve to go at all. They lost and put it in the committee's hands, and the committee bailed them out. And this might be a surprise to hear me say, but this Final Four has an opportunity, might be the lowest rated Final Four ever. Look where the 4 teams are at. Clemson, South Carolina. Alabama is in Alabama. Oklahoma and Oklahoma. And then Georgia out of Georgia. 2 SEC teams. But you notice kind of a geological location to all 4 of those teams. They're all really close, and they're all in the South. Outside of Oklahoma, who's the Midwest, but still pretty close to there. There's no East Coast. There's no West Coast. There's no really outside of the South. And this could end up being a Final Four that isn't very much watched. Now, there are some big names, big contenders. Personally, I'm not going to probably watch. I might watch the championship. I won't watch the first 2 games. It all depends on how much time I have. But I'm not going to go out of my way to make sure to watch these games. I didn't last year. The only game I really went on my way to watch was Clemson versus Alabama. But these games don't intrigue me that much. We are going to get a rubber match between Clemson and Alabama, but the guys who made that game so great the last 2 years, most of them are gone now. Georgia versus Oklahoma is going to be interesting. But it begs the question of, should conference titles matter? Should strength of schedule matter? What should ultimately matter? And this is going to also spark the debate of, should there be 4 teams? Not instead have 8 teams or 16 teams, which definitely no 16. 8 is pushing it. 8 is the absolute most. But it just makes it difficult. It makes it harder and harder each year. There's so many bowl games. I don't know if we should just go back to having the computers help decide, have a happy medium, instead of having the committee completely decide who's in. Before, it used to be, the 7 computers who made up the computer third. Then you had the coaches poll that made up a third. And then you had the AP poll that made up a third. What if we went to eliminate the coaches poll, because that poll's the most ridiculous poll ever, because half the coaches are coaching during when other coaches are playing, so how impossibly could they know who's the top 25? But instead of the coaches poll, have the committee. So you have the committee count for a third, you have the AP count for a third, and you have the computers count for a third. The BCS wouldn't have gotten it so wrong when majority they got it right. Burned me at the stake for saying that, but it did get it right a lot. The BCS, if they had 4 teams, they would never had those situations where they got it wrong. People say 2001 Oregon should have been over Nebraska. Well, if we had the 4 teams then, they would have been in. Then you had the fabled rematch between Michigan and Oklahoma, the Alabama LSU game, or that year where it was Texas, USC, and Auburn all went undefeated. Or Oklahoma, I'm sorry, not Texas. That was a different year. It was part of that USC 3-year run. But no, it was undefeated Oklahoma, Auburn, and USC. And Auburn got left out. Back in the day when the SEC wasn't necessarily the most dominant force on the face of the earth, USC and Oklahoma were up there too. But maybe going to the BCS and let it decide 4 teams might be a better short-term solution to see what happens, see what they give, see what it does. Because who knows? Computer's not biased. The media is not nearly as biased. And the committee, there is a lot of committee members that are in the South. So take that with a grain of salt as much as you will. Or go read Joel Klatt's tweets. There is a location to the committee. It's not as well spread out as it probably should be. And the fact that the committee is only 13 members is kind of small to me. Should probably have a representative from every major state that has colleges. I don't know. However you fix it. There's no right or wrong answer. But ultimately, we have our Final Four. You have Oklahoma versus Georgia. You have Alabama versus Clemson in the first rounds. And then those 2 winners will face each other for the national title. And it's just going to be, should be good games. But, Ohio State fans have a reason to be upset. USC fans, you don't really have a reason to be upset. I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but your alleged better strength of schedule, there's a lot of early teams who barely made bowl games. You can claim all you want. We played 8 teams that made bowl games. Yeah, well, 4 of them were 6-6. But you did beat the teams that were the best on your schedule. I'll give you credit for that, outside of Notre Dame, who crushed you. But, that's the way this goes. That's the way it's always going to go. Until we have a perfect system, which we never will, there's always going to be somebody upset, always going to be somebody left out. And this year, 2 teams were left out. Or should I say 2 conferences were left out. 1 undefeated team was left out. But hey, this is only the 4th year the college football playoff has been around. It's going to get better. Just wait for it. Before we move on to our next topic, let me tell you about Auto Service Express. Yes, I've been preaching them, I've been praising them, I've been talking about them. When you have a problem with your car, you need to go to them. Tom will take care of you, his crew will take care of you, Justin, all them. They are great. You'll go there, get your problem fixed, and you won't come back with the same problem again. They get it done right the first time. Auto Service Express. They have my guarantee. You should go there. Now, outside of college football, or not outside of college football, but the other things that are going on is this unbelievable coaching carousel going on in college football. And what's going on at Tennessee, which I'm going to start there. Tennessee football, Tennessee fans. This whole situation's a joke. I have to backtrack a little bit. I laughed and kind of made fun of the fact Greg Schiano was given the job and turned away because of protests. I thought it was because I didn't want him as a coach. I did not know it was because it had to do with the Penn State situation. About Greg Schiano's involvement and all these things. Well, I'm going to put this to you. I had no idea Greg Schiano was one of the assistants, the defensive line coach, I think is what he was, at Penn State during all that. That tells you how much he really was involved. Going back through everything, there was one sentence by Mike McQuarrie about Greg Schiano knowing something, and it was never addressed again. The AD got put in jail. People got put in jail over this. Schiano wasn't one of them. He's in none of the reports. Nothing. Just a statement by McQuarrie once, randomly, in all of this. Probably just to try to shed a little bit of light away from himself for not acting when he should have. But to go after a guy and associate him with Penn State in a way that he wasn't involved, or at least not that we could see. All signs point to Schiano didn't know and had nothing to do with the cover-up. They had a pretty active DA who threw people in jail, who got people banned. I mean, and Schiano's never named and never gone after. If they felt they didn't need to go after Greg Schiano, I think you're safe to say he had nothing to do with Penn State. And the fact that you use that because you don't want him, hey, he was a candidate for Oregon last year. I didn't want him. But I'm not going to go protest about his Penn State days just to get him not hired. That's a joke. That's ridiculous. And you know what else is a joke and ridiculous? The front office, the athletic director, Tennessee football in general, and its fans. Yes, you want to hear what the fans think, but you don't actually do it. There's a reason you're in the position of running Tennessee football and the fans are not. I mean, seriously. If I was so against the hire at Oregon, I don't expect Rob Mullins to listen to what I have to say and take it seriously. There's a reason why he picks who he picks. There's a reason why there's an interview process, a vetting process. There's a reason why I'm not the GM of the Oakland Raiders right now telling them how to run the team, because I don't know better than they do. I get to go behind a mic and tell you and pretend like I know better than they do, but majority of the time, I don't. There's a reason why they're there. And it's become a laughingstock. Tennessee's been turned away by so many people, and they're getting turned away by guys that aren't even good candidates. Like Jeff Fromm of Purdue. I don't even know the guy's name, but the dude from NC State. Like, seriously, these guys are turning you away. It's become a laughingstock, and I don't care who you get as your next coach. It looks like it's going to be T. Martin for whatever reason. And your new AD in Vollmer, yeah, have fun with that, who admitted behind the scenes sabotaging your AD who hadn't even been there for a year yet because he wanted to hire Mike Leach, which, hey, Tennessee fans, this just in. Mike Leach is winning. Oh, wait, you didn't know that? Because he's winning and you haven't since Peyton Manning. But that's okay, because you'll get your guy. You'll get who you want. It probably won't work out. You'll still be the laughingstock of the SEC for the next few years, and that's what your curse is going to be. So have fun with that. Greg Schiano's not the worst hire in the world. But putting his name out there associated with the likes of Jerry Sandusky in Penn State when there's no evidence to show he had anything to do with it or the cover-up, should be ashamed of yourselves, and you should get the death penalty. Just kidding. Not that extreme, but it's a penalty enough of life, and I might choose death to be a Tennessee fan. Well, that's just me. But then you have all these big names. I mean, you have Bruce Bellama out at Arkansas, or Brent Bellama, sorry. And they thought to get Gus Malzahn. He stays. Then you have Jimbo Fisher actually do what I never thought he would do and leave Florida State for Texas A&M, which has put us Oregon fans in a tizzy. I'll get to that later. You know, obviously Chip Kelly to UCLA. Herm Edwards, playoffs, is at ASU. He's their new coach at ASU. Hasn't coached in 20 years, and that was in the NFL. I love Herm Edwards. I think he's awesome. I think he's a great coach. But college? But, I mean, hey, you got to make a move. I mean, who knows? Scott Frost leaving UCF to go to Nebraska. And here's the thing. All you fans that are upset with your coaches leaving, I understand. You're allowed to be upset. But you know how UCF is sending off Scott Frost with a big thank you? Said it was a great ride. Good luck going home. What happened to that? Why can't fan bases be like that? Why can't teams be like that? There's players openly on Twitter thanking Scott Frost and telling him good luck. And he's now officially the head coach of Nebraska. He's still coaching UCF's game in the Peach Bowl. Yeah. How about we try that for, being nice and being supportive? Because UCF understands Nebraska's a better job at the moment, kind of. But that's for another day. But it's nice to see that going on. I mean, I think Scott Frost is going to be great for Nebraska. I think he's going to, do some damage in the Big Ten. And then OSU finally made their hire. Not the guy I've been preaching for the last couple weeks, but they hired Jonathan Smith to Oregon State. Was the quarterback of that great Oregon State team that won the Fiesta Bowl. He's going to hire Dennis Ericksley as not an assistant, but a helper or an informant, for advice. But I like the hire in Jonathan Smith. I don't think it was the right hire, but I like the hire. It's going to be interesting. He wants to be at Oregon State. He was an Oregon State guy. He was a walk-on quarterback that led them to an 11-1 season and winning a Fiesta Bowl. Pretty impressive. The guy's determined. And he's been at Washington the last few years helping coach quarterbacks there. I mean, offensive guy. It'll be interesting to see what he does. Beaver fans, you should like it. You don't have to love it, but you should like it. It's a good hire. I don't think it was the best hire, but it was a good hire. You could have done way worse. I think Bo Baldwin probably would have been a better hire, but Jonathan Smith is not a bad one. We just don't know what he can do when he's calling the shots, when he's running the show. That would be my only concern for you guys. But good news is you're probably getting a 4-star quarterback, more likely Colson Yankoff of Idaho, formerly Oregon commit. Because there's 3 4-stars currently committed to Washington right now, all at quarterback. They're all coming in at the same time. I'm pretty sure one of them's going to leave with him since he recruited the 3 of them. My best on Yankoff. There's my prediction. You're going to get 4-star Colson Yankoff and probably 4-star Devin Culp, his best friend, at the same time to Oregon State. So we'll see. But yeah, the coaching carousel has been really something else. And that brings us to start talking about the Ducks. But before I talk about the Ducks, I'm going to talk to you about a little website called Oregon Grown. Yes, you may not have heard of them, but it's a great site. It's ran by a good friend of mine, and it's pretty much self-explanatory. It's or-grown.com. Yes, Oregon-grown.com. They got hats, sweatshirts, car decals, all of it. For us kids who were growing up in Oregon, Oregon boys, Oregon girls, we were just grown here. I'm Oregon grown. A lot of my friends are Oregon grown. My son and my daughter are Oregon grown. My soon-to-be wife is Illinois grown, but it's okay. We converted her. It's all right. You don't have to be initially from here to wear the stuff to support the brand. It's a good brand. Oregon grown. Remember, or-grown.com. Get your orders in. At least give the site a shout. Oregon Grown. And the final thing we're going to talk about, Oregon Duck football, which I've been very, very active on Twitter for some of you that know, and some of you have been going back and forth with me about all this, what's going on. So let's start off with what was announced today. We will be playing in the Las Vegas Bowl on December 16th against Boise State. It's going to be a good game. It's going to be interesting. I think we can beat them, but I think they can kick the tar out of us too. But it's going to be fun to watch. But that's not even the start of our concerns right now. Remember how I mentioned Jimbo Fisher went to A&M and I never thought he would? He did. And Florida State University's top target is Oregon's Willie Taggert. Yes, Willie Taggert, who we just plucked last year from South Florida, is Florida State's top candidate, and I understand why. But I am going to say this very slowly and very clearly for my fellow Duck fans. Calm down. He's been here 1 year. And not to be a Debbie Downer, he hasn't even been that impressive this 1 year. Yes, he's done a lot of good things. I like Willie Taggert. I do want him to stay. But the bottom line is, 7-5 season wasn't that great a season. We got shut out in 3 games in the second half, 2 of which against teams that shouldn't shut us out. You take Justin Herbert out, he couldn't do anything on offense. You'd think if he is as good of an offensive play caller as he is, with Royce Freeman in the backfield and that offensive line, he could have done something with Braxton Burmeister. Yeah, he won the 1 game against Utah, but he couldn't move the ball on the worst run defense in the country in UCLA. I mean, seriously. He had issues this year. He had growing pains. He's going to get better. He is a great recruiter. He has a great staff. And he's really made the alumni, the old players, feel welcome. And I applaud him for that. He's gotten more juice into the company. He did something. It's been very impressive. But don't go for 1 second thinking I give 2 flyings towards Tuesday if he leaves. Because it hasn't been all him. He has not been the biggest turnaround. He has not been the most important cog to this season. He is not the biggest factor to why things turned around this year. He's not. Jim Leavitt is, our defensive coordinator. He turned this defense around like that, which was impressive. The players had talent. We knew that, but he got them to play together, and he got them to do it right away. Statistic-wise, we're a top 25 defense this year. We were a top 120, not on the front side of it last year, and that's being generous. But Jim Leavitt's been more important. So if Taggert leaves the FSU, good for him. He's going to get paid more, and that's his dream job. Do be UCF, Duck fans. Don't be Tennessee fans. Be UCF fans. Good luck, Willie Taggert, on going home and going to your dream job. Go to FSU, do what you can. And all of you who think that's just going to absolutely destroy recruiting, it's not. There's 7 kids from Florida, 1 kid from Georgia, 1 kid from North Carolina who are currently committed. Yeah, they are more than likely gone. I'm not afraid to admit that. Now the Oregon kids are leaving. California kids, Washington kids, Texas kid, they're not going to be looking at Florida State like they look at Oregon. Not every person who commits is literally all about the head coach. So if that was true, we would have 0 of the guys who are committed to us that didn't decommit stay with us. Diamande Lador wouldn't be here. Thomas Graham Jr., like all those guys, they wouldn't. Popo Amave, Darian Felix, like these guys decided to still stick around. And I have 4 candidates that I think would be 4 great candidates to replace him. And one of them you're not going to like. I'm not afraid to admit it. But, I mean, it just comes down to the fact is, you got to let it go. If Willie Taggert wants to leave, he wants to leave, let him leave. It's not like we're losing Chip Kelly. And you know what? My first choice, if he's to go, You promote Jim Leavitt or you promote Mario Cristobal. You give one of those guys the head coaching job because then they keep the most of the staff together. Because guess what? Willie Taggert only previously coached with 2 other guys on this staff. He has no previous connection other than recruiting them to come work for him. And that's Dante Pimpleton, a running back coach, who I think I just butchered his last name, and Keith Hayward, our safeties coach. Those 2 guys, only other 2 guys that coach with him. One at UCF, the other at Stanford. That is it. Nobody else. You promote Jim Leavitt. That means you promote Joe Salavea to D coordinator. And hey, all you have to replace is a running back coach and a safeties coach, pretty much. If those guys even leave with him. You might lose Marcus Arroyo, Michael Johnson. Those are easy positions to fill. You promote Mario Cristobal. That just means you give Marcus Arroyo full power. You have to go hire an offensive coordinator. There's guys out there. There's dudes you can go get. Now, if it doesn't become a thing or Oregon doesn't want, I mean, like I said, Jim Leavitt and Mario Cristobal, my first 2 choices. My next choice that's not on the current staff, Kevin Sumlin. Dude can coach. SEC's a hard place. A&M's not Texas. Get Kevin Sumlin here. Have him keep the staff together. The dude can recruit just as well as Willie Taggert. He has a lot more success than Willie Taggert. He is an offensive mind like Willie Taggert. It almost is be like what Charlie Strong did at UCF when Taggert left. He would step in and win. Because, let's be honest, Duck fans, our schedule's looking pretty good for us to win a lot of games. And our 2 toughest games, Stanford and Washington, are at home. So stop worrying. Chill out, Duck fans. Chill. And here's my 4th choice as a possible replacement for Willie Taggert, if he is to go and leave. And I'm not going to believe I'm going to say this, but it's Lane Kiffin. Oh, that tasted worse coming out of my mouth than in my head. But yes, Lane Kiffin. I used to hate that dude. I thought he was a joke. I think Lane Kiffin might finally get it. As weird as this sounds, I think Lane Kiffin might actually get it. The dude's dominated Twitter the last 2 weeks. And you know what tweet I saw today from him? A guy flat out went and asked, hey, Lane Kiffin should probably be Florida Coach of the Year. And he's like, it'd be a really tough one to call. Lane quoted the tweet and said, no, that's Scott Frost. He did a great job. And tagged Scott Frost and ESPN in it. I don't think this is the same Lane Kiffin that we've grown into, the same Lane Kiffin that left in the middle of the night. This is a different Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin could always recruit. Lane Kiffin could always coach offense. He has matured. He's challenging Saban, which I absolutely love. The guy who canned him for Steve Sarkisian is trolling him, and he's at FAU. He's like, yeah, don't get Alabama in the playoffs so we can play him in a bowl game, which, sorry, Lane, you didn't have a good enough record for a major bowl. But I love what he did at FAU this year. I love how he's grown. I love what he does on Twitter. Now, the minute he's hired, I could see Twitter exploding as well as every UO's fan, University of Oregon fan there is, and other guys laughing. But I think Lane Kiffin might be a legitimate choice. It is rumored, but I wouldn't mind it. Like, I'm going so far, I actually wouldn't mind Lane Kiffin being our guy. And of course, we'd lose a guy after 1 year to take a guy who's infamous for leaving after 1 year, which he would be doing to FAU after 1 year, but it's a little bit different. I'm pretty sure FAU knows he's not a long-term solution, unlike Tennessee. But those are my 4 choices. But I guess to finish out this episode, I just got to talk to you Duck fans. Stop. Stop crying. Stop moaning. Stop bitching. Let it go. And stop being hypocrites. I, on this podcast last year, said I was with Helfrich. I defended Helfrich. Helfrich should have got 1 more year. He didn't get it. And I understand why he didn't get it. But I got ridiculed and argued with by a lot of fellow Duck fans about the fact Helfrich was the problem. He should be gone. And all of you praised Taggert when he got here and praised his recruiting classes. All I see on Twitter, all I hear on radio now is how if Taggert was to leave, We need to switch to a homegrown guy. Bring somebody back to the program that knows this program and someone that's going to stay long term. No, you don't get that opportunity. All of you can shut your mouths because you had that guy, you had that staff. That's what Mark Helfrich was. And Mark Helfrich was a part of 2 national title teams. That coaching staff has been here for years. You didn't want that, so you can't go back on it. Enough's enough. I warned you in past episodes. Don't become that fan base. Don't become Tennessee. Don't become the fan base that lives in the glory days and acts like we're national title contenders every year. We're not that fan base. We haven't won anything yet. And we got rid of the guys who took us there twice. Get over it. Let Willie Taggert go if he wants to go. Stop speculating. Be happy with what you have. Because we haven't had a truly successful season until 2009. We had the 1994 Rose Bowl and the 2001 Fiesta Bowl. Outside of that are Rose Bowls years ago. But those are the 2 times. Those are the blips on the system. We've really only been a powerhouse program since 2009. That is it. Stop acting like you're Miami or Notre Dame or Alabama. We're not those teams. We're just not. Willie Taggert was supposed to take us to the promised land. Supposed to help us get to the next step. Because if you want to win national titles and not be a fluke, you have to constantly be in top 10 recruiting, which is not something we were. But don't sit there and call into Dan Patrick and John Canzano and Steve Tannen and be these people who say we need a homegrown candidate, someone that's not going to look at us as a stepping stone. Well, guess what? We are a stepping stone. You want a Mac Brown of Oregon? Guess what? You got rid of him because his one 4-8 season wasn't good enough for you. Oh, the program was on a decline. Yeah, everybody goes through it but Alabama. We're not Alabama. I hope one day to say we are like them and we'll be a perennial powerhouse and we'll be a top 10 recruiting class and we'll always get the benefit of the doubt. But the bottom line is we've been to 2 national titles. Period. And they both were in the last 7 years. Not exactly a history of success. Oh, hey, Duck fans, by the way, how many Heisman winners have we had? Oh, yeah, that's right, 1. Now, here's a better one. How many Heisman finalists have we had? 3. We're not a blue blood. We're not a perennial favorite. We're never going to be thought of as that team that everyone fears every year. We had that short run where we were. The next step is to sustain it until a coach comes in here and can prove and help us sustain it. Stop acting like we're already there. This is not a situation. Act like you've been there before. Because we haven't. We've been there twice. And we only got robbed once. We are who we are. We are Oregon football. We win the day. We do something. But more importantly, we are Oregon. Don't ever forget that. Till that time.
What time is it? Tea time!